is Nigel, and we're going to be reviewing the epic Manchester Derby win for United, come from behind to win 2-1. And what a great day it was for United fans, with Liverpool also losing 3-0 to Brighton. So absolutely fantastic, and can't wait to talk about it. Yes, everybody, welcome to the show. United come from behind to beat City 2-1. A lot of crying about Bruno Fernandes' equaliser, but I don't care. The ABUs are back in force, full of their jealousy of United being a force again in the Premier League under Eric Ten Hag. So, Nigel, I'll come to you. What was your thoughts on the game yesterday?
Oh, it was a fantastic second half. Good disciplined performance the whole 90 minutes. The stats say a lot to me. They're the current champions, sitting second. They had 763 passes against our 309, yet they're playing away from home. But Ten Hag showing the astuteness that he has. He had everybody primed to do a certain job. And apart from the number 9, which I'm sure you'll come to later, everybody did that job. He was forced to bring Anthony on at half time, he said in his post conference, to say that he had to do it. Everybody was doing what he wanted done, and he had to get somebody on was prepared to have a go at it. So once again, the number 9 at United needs to be filled with someone permanent very quickly. It seemed to be the biggest link. But what a noise from the fans. The fans are really getting into it. And the thing he said post-match conference was that not only did he come to fix all sorts of things at the club, he wanted the fans back enacting with the first team and getting involved. And if you've seen some of those videos of Casemiro going into the crowd and hugging people, it was just wonderful to see. Reminded me of the glory days.
Yeah, everybody joining us, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment your thoughts in the live chat. Yeah, absolutely love seeing the videos of Casemiro, Varane, and Fred hugging the supporters. That was a real throwback to the old days. I remember you talking about Dennis Law hugging supporters. We don't get to see much of that nowadays. I think it's an automatic yellow card by the rules. But I love seeing that kind of passion. Love seeing the manager's celebration when Rashford scored as well. He almost ended up in the Stratford end. He went that far down the touchline celebrating. It didn't look good, did it? When Grealish scored, City were dominating the from the start of the second half, and it was one-way traffic. Their goal was inevitable, and I honestly looked as if they were just going to build on that. But no, we managed to turn it around. The goal came in supposed controversial circumstances. A lot of crying from the City manager, the players, ex-City players, their supporters, and social media, and a lot of kind of pundits as well, who don't like United, complaining about the goal. But we've seen this before in an FA Cup final when Alexis Sanchez scored for Arsenal against Chelsea. Ramsey was in an offside position. He didn't touch the ball. Alexis put it in, and the goal was given. So there's precedent for this. It's within the rules. We even seen a game involving City. I can't remember who it was against, but Rodri came from an offside position to tackle someone, and it ended up with Bernardo Silva scoring a goal, and the goal was given. So I don't believe in all this nonsense that it's an Old Traffordish decision, and United get the benefit of the referees and the VAR. So absolute load of nonsense, isn't it?
Yeah, it's common from bad losers. I mean, they had so much of the ball, the stats have already referred to. There were only 3 corners in the game, City had 2 and we had 1. All that possession, their star man, Highland, was really marked out of it. The one opportunity he had, you saw the 2 Brazilians, Casemiro and Fred, throw themselves literally at. That's the commitment of the current back four. It's absolutely wonderful to see, and they're following the rules. This guy, Ten Hag, is very astute the way he sets the game up. It was a different game and a different side that the one that he played. Obviously, he's learned from what happened in the 6-3 drubbing at the Etihad. So a lot of the pundits have to go to Ten Hag. He really has stepped up to the mark, and he's loving it. He says he's loving it, and he can't wait to get back to training to get the boys up for the next game against Crystal Palace. So that's lovely to hear.
Yeah, City can have the ball and we'll take the points. 71% possession for Manchester City, but they only had 5 shots on goal, one on target, which was the greatest goal. We had 8 shots on goal and 4 on target. So clear, and you could see from just watching the game that we had the majority of the chances in the match. I mean, in the first half alone, we had at least 3 clear-cut chances. So they might have had the majority of the ball, but we had the majority of the chances. And I think on balance, we deserved to win the game. So yeah, I was really pleased with how the players showed a fighting spirit to come back from 1-0 down. It's very hard for any team to come back to beat City whenever City score first. I think the crowd really played their part in it too. And Rashford's goal scoring just keeps on going. I think he's must have scored, is it 7 games in a row now? And he's
9, I think, is it?
9, right?
Is it? That's
He,
it.
he,
Yeah,
he's on 16 for the season. Oh, I think he might have scored 7 games in a row, but he scored in 9 home games in a row. Maybe
that's
that's
it.
what it is.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and great impact from the bench by Alejandro Garnacho, setting up the chance for Rashford, which he buried. So fantastic to see Garnacho having another impact in a massive game.
Oh yeah, and he only literally had 18 minutes up to the 90, and then the additional 5. But the amount of effort and commitment, and the midfield, whether it's before substitutions or after substitutions, the midfield know to drum it out to the left, and Ericsson played a beautiful ball a few times. It's the commitment to go round people and inside people, the variety of choice that he makes when he's on the ball. That's invaluable, and the pace he has is absolutely dynamite.
Yeah, he's a great impact player from the bench, but obviously in the future we would like to see him become a regular in the first team. Um, but we will probably see that later on the season or next season. But Ten Hag in most games seems to be using him as an impact sub, and it's the last thing you want to see as a fullback is him coming off the bench with his pace and trickery and ability to go both ways. It's not. I'm sure it was not what Kyle Walker wanted to see. Yeah, so I thought City were very underwhelming and not really. I know they passed it around quite a bit, but we handled them really well. I mean,
Oh,
I don't think I don't think Varane and Shaw even had to break sweat. I know we conceded 1 goal, but that was really it. Um, Shaw had Haaland in his back pocket, and Fred had De Bruyne in his back pocket. There's some great
yeah.
individual performances, wasn't there?
Fred was outstanding. I have to say that the movement for their goal, where De Bruyne on that occasion was Casemiro trying to block the cross, but that was the only time that really Fred in the whole game let the people he was assigned to mark have any space. He really did. Do you remember we talked about what sort of game with Fred? He's either up or down, but he was very up yesterday. It was a top class performance.
Yeah, I suppose in a way he's a bit like Darren Fletcher. Fletcher wasn't someone like Fred who plays every game, but often gets called upon in the big games when we're not going to have as much of the ball, and it's going to require a lot of hard work and man marking. And he came in and he did a job. He did it absolutely superbly. And Wan Bissaka is continuing his good form. Now I know he was distracted by Haaland for the goal and he completely lost Grealish. But apart from that, I thought he was brilliant. Even in the other half of the pitch, he was showing a bit of trickery going around City players, and the crowd really appreciated that one. So we're not really missing Dallo in the way we thought we would. Wan-Bissaka is fully deserving of his place in the team at the moment, isn't he?
He certainly is. He surprised me more than anybody else. But I put it down to Ten Hag again. Apparently, I'd said previously on podcast that he'd got them both together, both right fullbacks, and had them doing various exercises and allocating the both of them to a specific coach. And it's paying off. He looked very competent on the ball going forward, and he slipped a lovely ball through in the second half, which we were amazed the quality of it. And as you say, the crowd reacted. It was a lovely bit of play.
Yeah, yeah. The crowd were absolutely elated yesterday with that result, and utter silence from the away end, which is what we like to see, and a lot of crying and surrounding the referee at the end of the game. Um, which doesn't really interest me. I only care about getting the points, and I know they can say all they want on social media. All that is just crying about the decisions that it's purely. I can see where they're coming from, but it is purely subjective. And they've benefited from that situation in the past, so I have no sympathy at all. So David De Gea had absolutely nothing to do yesterday. That really sums up how well he performed defensively. He could have watched the game from a sofa, and it wouldn't have made any difference.
I had a
Um,
cigarette holding onto the post.
yeah. So we're up to we're up to third, but we're back down to fourth now with Newcastle's victory today, and we're behind Newcastle on goal difference. That's been the major problem. We need to improve that, because we've taken a couple of hammerings earlier in the season, and we're not scoring enough goals. But hopefully, as the season progresses, we can improve that. And maybe Wykhorst will help us with that. Now, yesterday in the first half, I think the crowd, ourselves, and even some of the journalists in the press box were frustrated with Anthony Martial not holding the ball up well enough, not pressing, just very very one paced, and he was substituted at half time. And Anthony came on to play as a false nine. So I think number 9 is definitely the area we need to improve on, and hopefully Vikhorst can be that stopgap until we sign a big name in the summer.
Oh, I think so. I think so. But the one thing about Wout Weghorst, that's his name. It doesn't roll off the tongue, but he was at the ground. His wife was sitting beside him, and the two children were on their knees. He went bananas when the final whistle went. It was great to see the passion. He was up and down and congratulating everybody behind him, in front of him. So I can't wait to see this guy, to see he's up to the mark. I mean, he has 150 career goals. He must have something in him that Ten Hag has seen. And let's face it, Ten Hag has made very good judgment call so far. So I'm sure he won't start games just at the moment, but I think the manager's losing patience with Martial, as we've lost patience with him years ago. His body language is not. Everybody else is flying around. Imagine if the ball keeps coming back in the centre forward, and people like Fred, as you say, running his heart out. You need everybody in a team game to play that role. He didn't want to do it yesterday, Kai.
Yeah, and he was making it easier for City to play out from the back because he wasn't doing his job. He wasn't pressing, closing people down. And when it comes to high press, when it comes to the high press, everybody has to be involved. If one person drops out, then City will escape and get out. Um, so yeah, that's something that'll be interesting going forward. Will he stick with Martial? Will he play Rashford as a number 9 and Garnacho on the left, or will Weghorst become a regular in the team? We'll just have to wait and see. I think Weghorst was desperate to play yesterday, but wasn't registered on time. But be interesting to see if Weghorst starts against Crystal Palace. I know one of the worrying things yesterday was Rashford picking up that injury in the first half. Nobody expected him to come out for the second half, but he did. He played through the pain. He ended up scoring the winning goal just as well, because that finish from Rashford from Garnacho's cross, I'm not sure Martial even would have been in that position to put that
No,
away.
no, he might have hurt himself stretching. Might have
Yeah.
might have done himself some. But the manager addressed that. All the media questions were saying that nobody in the media outlet expected uh, Rashford to return in the second half. But it was never in doubt in the dressing room. He said, "I trust the player implicitly. He's on top of his form, and and I expect my top professionals to take knocks. It's a contact sport. It's a professional game." He said he was ready. I believed him, and he proved it. So there's that element of trust. There's no legacy at all of Rashford being disciplined recently for whatever reason. He was up for the manager and up for the crowd, and he's loving it. He is loving it.
Yeah, I knew he wasn't going to come off easily. He's not one of those players that if he picks up a knock, he'll go straight down the tunnel. He'll try to run it off, and that's what he did. But the question is now, should we rest him for the Palace game and keep him fresh for Arsenal? Would you bring? I know you said earlier that Weghorst should probably not start games right away, but do you think we should have look at starting Vicors against Palace and playing Garnacho on the left and playing Anthony on the right and giving Rashford the night off? I suspect not. If Rashford is even 70% fit, I think he'd play in that game. But what's your thoughts on it?
No, I would definitely rest him, but I think that he'll be telling his manager he wants to play. But going on what I've seen of the manager so far, he likes them to be back. Look at the players that came back from the World Cup, and really, Martinez hasn't figured really. You could say since that comeback, and it's to do with the fitness. It'll be how he sees him in training and how fit he really is. So we'll just have to wait and see in that one, I think.
Yeah, it surprised me yesterday that Martinez didn't start the game. Once again, opting for Luke Shaw at centre back alongside Varane. We'll probably see that in the new camp now for sure, with Martinez being suspended.
Yeah.
But Martinez must not have came back at full fitness after the World Cup. Maybe had a few too many glasses of champagne or hamburgers. Um,
Like
we can,
like a few people I know yesterday afternoon at 2:45.
yeah. But it's been a few weeks now since he came back, and he's only started one game, and that was the game against League One Charlton in the Carabao Cup. Um, so it's is he now making Shaw first choice, or do you think that Martinez will come back in eventually?
Oh, I think Martinez will return all right, but now he's got great cover there. And certainly with the bench yesterday, Lindelof and Maguire are getting the message now that they're further down the pecking order. Shaw said again post match that he's absolutely loving the challenge of the new role. And in the last 5 minutes, when City were going for broke, there was one wonderful header out from defence by Shaw. He really seems very comfortable beside Varane, and it's building up a partnership, which it's all about. So certainly, I think Martinez will return, but if he ever gets an injury in match, there's no doubt who's moving to play beside Rafa.
Yeah, and Varane himself also made several interventions yesterday to prevent certain goals. He was excellent again, another top performance. And yeah, him and Shaw looking like everybody said that there's no way Shaw will actually play in a big game, but he did, and he did well. Um, so if he can perform like that against City, there's no opposition that he can't start against at centre back. But we do miss Shaw's, attacking talents on the other end of the pitch, because I don't think Malacia quite offers that. But yeah, Malacia, I like you say, I love how close he gets to the wingers, closes people down. And maybe he commits too many fouls, but he certainly likes to let his opponent know that he's there. And I thought he was very impressive yesterday.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, yeah. Well, going back to Shaw, little Shaw was interviewed and said that he's been at the club 8 years now and he's never felt as comfortable playing in the back four he is in now. And he said that the atmosphere, the players are getting a real buzz because the fans are beginning to believe. That's the word, believe. You and I have discussed the past few years under different managers. There was no belief. It was just a little hope. We can talk about 4, 5, 6 quality players now. Remember the days, Kyle, when there was only one or two playing on their own?
Yeah, it's a team that's going places and just needs a couple of additions to maybe mount a title challenge. Now, some people are getting a bit carried away, thinking that we are in a title race, and maybe if we beat Palace and win away at Arsenal, you can make that argument. But definitely, at some point, our lack of depth will come into play this season. Um, City certainly have more depth. Arguably, Arsenal don't. But if we picked up a few, like if we lost Casemiro and Rashford, I think we'd be in big trouble. So even if we win the next couple of games and get close to Arsenal, it would be massively difficult to keep this going for until the 38th game. But we're allowed to dream as supporters. We've had a torrid last decade. And if United are getting close to the top again, we're perfectly entitled to believe that a miracle could happen. Imagine Ten Hag winning the Premier League in his first season.
No,
You
it's
would have got
dream.
huge odds on that.
Oh, it's dream time. It's dream time. But as he said himself, Crystal Palace is game 19. So that's the halfway point, as you say, of a 38 match season. He says he's ahead of where he expected to be, but the players are beginning to really believe that they can trust implicitly the people around them, and that's what's like. Do you remember the last 3 seasons we had a back four where there was no trust and nobody really believed, and it was just how many we were conceding at one point against the better teams. Now yesterday we were in a top four clash and it was a 6 pointer and we came out winning it. We'll go to Arsenal next week. We're the only team in the Premiership that's beaten Arsenal in the league to date, unless Spurs do it later. But uh, with that result in mind, why should we go and be afraid? We should set up to try and win that game and take the game to Arsenal. Let's see how good they are on their own pitch under pressure.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be an interesting one. Hopefully, Spurs can do us a favour as well and win this game. And I think if Harry Kane scores, he'll become Tottenham's all-time top scorer. And he has a great record of scoring against Arsenal, so you think it's inevitable. Yeah, and then we got Palace also before that, so hopefully we can go and win that game. Palace lost today to Chelsea. I don't think they're on a great run at the moment, and they'll have less rest than us ahead of this game at Wednesday night. So we have to go there and get the points as well. And I love how in interviews with Ten Hag and the players yesterday after the game, they were saying, "Yeah, we celebrate this today, we'll enjoy it, but tomorrow we'll move on and start to focus on Palace." And that's the way champions talk. You know, they don't rest on their laurels and celebrate victories in one-off games. Like, if you want to win titles and trophies, you need to just celebrate on the day and then move on to the next. Move on to the next game, because the next game is now the most important one. As far as the players are concerned, that game yesterday is now history. Now we must move on to the next games, and hopefully we get the points at Palace, and then move on to Arsenal, which is another massive game. So it's so brilliant to have excitement back. Last season, watching United was a chore. We were absolutely awful, and I know you make comparisons to the relegation season, and other fans did as well. How quickly Ten Hag has turned things around, and I never expected it to happen this quickly.
No, and the other interesting thing, we had talked off the record during the week, and you had suggested what your team would be yesterday, and I had suggested my team. The very fact that this manager is picking teams that nobody can get right, he says he makes the call on the basis of how they train, and obviously he doesn't feel Martinez is quite there yet, so he's prepared to give confidence to Shaw by telling him, "You're good enough to play in the centre. I believe in you." And he went out and had a marvellous game yesterday. So there's whole sorts of wee subtle things that this manager is doing, and the players are definitely beginning to believe, as I say, and believe is a big word in football because it breeds confidence. And if we can only get the front three right, Kyle, it's too light on goals. At least Bruno got another goal, controversial or not. Who cares, as you say? But he's up to 6. Do you remember when he came in his first season, he used to score for fun and have all these assists all over the place? If we can get Bruno back into that sort of form, we'll push and be there in the top 3 at the end of the season, no doubt.
Yeah, if Bruno and Rashford are at the top of the game at the same time, I mean, we're going to be a very dangerous team, and a force to be reckoned with. So let's hope that happens. So just on what you were saying there about the wee subtle changes, like before the game, when the lineup was announced an hour before kickoff, some of us were like, that's a very, very cautious looking team. It looks like it's there to stop City, but none of us really were angry about it, or are really heavily critical, because we believe in the manager. We believe he knew what he was doing. I could see why he chose that lineup, because in the reverse fixture we get torn apart. The midfield didn't have the legs to cope with City's runners, so he obviously went for 2 defensive midfielders, and Christian Eriksen is the number 10, and Bruno Fernandes moved out to the right. And it absolutely worked. The only thing that didn't work was Martial, but he was substituted at half time, and we benefited from that. So once again, despite eyebrows being raised at the team sheet, Ten Hag knew exactly what he was doing, didn't he?
He did, and he has done very well with the squad. The way he has left people out who weren't really fit and played different teams at different times. We worried before Christmas with long enough time with the World Cup on to think about it. where he would leave people out, and people like Ericsson, who we know we didn't expect to play all the games he has played, but substitute yesterday when he saw he was a bit tired and it worked well and we won the game. He's very good at reacting like that. Sometimes he leaves it too late in the game, I feel, to make his substitutions. But who can criticise him with the run we're on? He's getting results. We're winning matches, and the big teams are beginning to fear us again. So let's get on the goal sheet and get more goals, and then the confidence will flow right through from the steady back four and a clever midfield with people scoring goals.
Yeah, Fortress Old Trafford is certainly back. I think every single big team that we've played at Old Trafford, we've got all 3 points. Um, we haven't played many. We played Chelsea away. We should have won. We got a draw. I don't. Obviously, we're thrashed away to City. We've still got go to Anfield and the Emirates next weekend. So hopefully, we can get 3 points in some of these away games now as well, because we're doing really well at home. Even and what we obviously been doing in recent weeks was beating the relegation fodder quite comfortably. Now, in previous seasons, we weren't doing that, and that's why we were not qualifying for the top four. So it's good to see not only winning these big games, which is fantastic, but actually putting away the teams in the bottom half of the table and doing it comfortably. That's what United title winning teams did. So it's great to see that back, isn't it?
Oh, it's crucial, absolutely crucial. And in between the Premier League matches, we've had various cups, and we've kept the standard of performance up to a very high level. And now the next, I mean, obviously the test, the 6 pointer at Arsenal next Sunday, will be followed fairly shortly by a double header against Barcelona. Now you're beginning to, you've heard me many times when United are in and out, and I've said, listen, we're playing Southampton or whoever, we're not playing Barcelona. But now, Kyle, we are going to play Barcelona, and let's have a look how we cope with that sort of demanding game at the highest level in Europe. This team's learning, and the manager's been very good the way he's setting them up for different games at different times. He seems to have got the balance right, and it's lovely to look forward to the next game.
Yeah, we're the only English team I think currently still in 4 competitions, but I don't think we're going to win all 4 competitions because, like I said earlier, we don't quite have the depth at the moment. Um, Apart from the starting 11, we've only got maybe 1 or 2 players on the bench who can have an impact. It's not really strong. I mean, when you look at some of the players on the bench yesterday, like Harry Maguire, Lindelof, McTominay, Anthony Alanga, that's still very average. And obviously, Kobe Manu is very, very young. Garnacho and Anthony are obviously the players that can come on and make a difference. But yeah, the bench just isn't strong enough. You know, Donny van der Beek's now out injured for the season, which is just no luck for that guy at all. It's very
Sadly,
unfortunate.
yeah.
So we don't quite have the depth, I think, the way City do. You know, to compete on 4 fronts. What do you think?
Yeah, well, imagine City brought on a £100 million footballer in the
Yeah.
second half. That proves your point. That's the strength that team, and they have a manager who's a very clever guy who's done it all and won it all, and the fans at the Etihad love him too. But I mean, as you mentioned recently, Pep did 2 seasons under Ten Hag under Pep at Bayern Munich. He's learned a few things and he's trying a few things out himself. So there's a mutual respect. You could see that at the end of the game yesterday. And when we have a manager who's competing at the top level against the successful Manchester City team, sorry to say that, but it's a fact. We're getting there. We are building a team, and let's move on. And as you say, get it in the summer. Some of the players on the substitutes bench yesterday, hopefully for their own sakes and their own careers, will have left our club, leaving vacancies for new signings, whatever they are. But certainly a centre forward has to be a key, a goal scorer.
Yeah, it's the first time since 2013 where the fans actually believe that we're going somewhere. You know, there's genuine belief now that we're building towards a team that can win the 21st title. We never really had that confidence before under the previous managers. We were just kind of hoping rather than expecting. Now we're actually expecting big things from this manager and this team. So I'm just going to do the player ratings now. I'll hand that over to you. So I'll call the players out and you give me your mark out of 10. So the goalkeeper, David De Gea.
Give him a 6. Very little to do.
Aaron Wan-Bissaka.
A 7, high mark for me for him, but he certainly is on his game and he's moving upwards.
Varane.
Another 8. Lovely performance in the centre defence.
Luke Shaw.
Another 8. Excellent in that, and a role he's only played less than 5 times, possibly. He's on form and playing with confidence.
And Terrell Malacia.
He had a sound game, but occasionally he goes too far up the field and doesn't get back. I'd give him a 6.
Casemiro.
Oh, another 8. What a player. What a player.
Fred.
Fred, I'd give him an 8 yesterday, and fully deserved for his commitment to the cause. And the running he did reminded me of Alan Ball all those years ago for Everton in England, covering the amount of space he did. He gave us heart and soul for the team yesterday. Lovely to see.
Christian Eriksen.
7 as always. What a player on both sides, left and right foot, close control. Few lovely passes to both Rashford and Garnacho. He has great vision.
Bruno Fernandes.
I'll give him a 7. Sometimes, as you know, I have concerns about him getting involved with referees and getting too many yellow cards. But boy, didn't he take the goal well, and there's no doubt he's committed as captain and trying to lead them if he stays away from referees.
Marcus Rashford.
9, playing through injury at the toppest level, winning the game. He's just improved immeasurably since Ten Hag arrived. Ten Hag has told him he's good, and he knows he's good now, and he's playing that well. Deserve it of a 9, surely, yeah.
Yeah, you could argue that he's on the level of Mbappe, given his current level of performance. And he's a player that he's been compared to, quite a bit, but he's never been as consistent as Mbappe until now. And hopefully, this is the way Rashford's going to play for the next 5 years on a consistent basis, and he'll be one of the best forwards in the world if he does. So the disappointing Anthony Martial.
Oh, a 2. I know, lucky to get 2 from me. Absolutely didn't do what he was told. And this manager's a disciplinarian, Kyle. If you whipped him off at half time, and the crowd were telling the manager from the stands how annoyed they were by the lack of effort. His body language is not good for any team. I don't care whether he plays in Italy or Spain. He's not going to succeed with that attitude.
And Anthony, who came on from Martial half time, I said to you, about 5 minutes into the second half, he's already done more than what Martial did. So Anthony Dos Santos, what does he get?
I'd give him a 6.
Alejandro Garnacho.
Oh yeah, another 7 from 18 minutes play. Exciting. The players he plays with now know that he is a quality player, and they're beginning to find him. And he believes that he can take anybody on and beat them. So another good 7 for a substitute.
McTominay, Martinez, and Maguire were just a mixture of time wasting and defensive subs in stoppage time to try and see the game out, which they did. So you can't really give them a mark. So
No.
Erik ten Hag, what about him?
I'll give him an 8. Definitely to win that important match at Old Trafford. Surprising all the punditry with his team selection, and it paid off for him. So, and he very rarely gets less than an 8. He's very subtle with his changes, and there's always a reason for a team selection or even a substitution. So, yeah, definitely going in the right direction.
And you've been very impressed with his press conferences, haven't you? Every single week.
Yeah. He doesn't answer immediately. He thinks about the question and then gives a rational question. But his belief, one of the things he did yesterday, Kyle, was very pleased about, was that when everybody was going mad, the game was over. I noticed that he very quietly went up to all his coaches and hugged every single one of them. That's a nice touch for a manager, not to be aloof and away from the people who are doing things. Say, for example, we've talked about in recent weeks about the changes at corners and set pieces and getting the back four more concentrated. So the guy obviously who does that, I can't remember his name, he went up and hugged him too, and that's great management. Very clever.
Eric Ramsey.
Yes, that was one of them.
Yeah, it's a far cry from the days of Mourinho, who, whenever throughout his career, whenever he won games, he would say, "I won the game, I won the trophy, I succeeded." No, it's very, it's no, as if the players and the coaches didn't exist, that it was just all about him. I hated that. So I do like that touch from Ten Hag, immediately acknowledging the hard work that the coaches had put in, and the players obviously during the week the build up to this game. He knows that it's a team sport. It's not individual sport. So yeah, this weekend couldn't have went any better. I mean, Liverpool were absolutely destroyed at Brighton. It could have been a lot more than 3-0. I see Donny Wilbeck, the Mancunian who used to play for United, obviously, doing the Marcus Rashford celebration when he scored against Liverpool.
I
Um,
saw it. Yeah.
so you've got to say that Liverpool and Chelsea are really struggling to make the top four. So you'd think now that would be the absolute bare minimum that we will achieve this season.
I would have thought so. I mean, it's onwards and upwards now. As I think I said to you recently, let's get some silverware. If we could win the League Cup in February, we would have that banked, and let's move to get as high as we possibly can in the Premier League, second or third, possibly. I don't think we just have enough, but you never know. Let's believe. Let's put the pressure on. If we keep getting closer and closer, and as you say, Fortress Old Trafford guarantee three points every time they play at home. The others in the top four will be looking over their shoulder, and that'll do no harm at all when the pressure starts.
Yeah, and just as you mentioned, the League Cup semi-finals are. Dean Henderson has been denied his application to play against United in the League Cup, and who can blame the club after his interview with Talksport back in August? He was talking as if he'd cut all ties with United. He's only on loan. How can he speak about the club like that? And all this nonsense about I didn't want Ten Hag to see me training because he want to keep me and all. He's an absolute egotist. And like you say, he was this he looked a bit like he was coming off his line for those penalties that he was saving in the quarterfinals. Um, Not a fan of that guy at all, and his personality anyway. And it'd be Wayne Hennessy who'll be playing against us, and he's the goalkeeper that was sent off in the World Cup.
Yeah.
I don't think I think his best days are behind him. So hopefully we can get that tie won comfortably and onto the final. Um, People are saying it'd probably be a Newcastle versus Manchester United final. We can't rule anything out because Southampton have already put Manchester City out of the tournament. They have two great goals, so Newcastle are not guaranteed to come through that. But yeah, it'd be really exciting to be back at Wembley in Ten Hag's first season and at the first opportunity really in February. So if we can get past Forest in the semi-finals, um, the first game's at the City Ground. So hopefully we can go there. It'll probably be difficult with the crowd, despite I'm sure there'll probably be 5,000 United fans or so traveling. But with the home crowd, it'll be a difficult game. But over the two legs, I think we'll get the job done.
Oh, I would hope so. I would hope so, definitely. Yeah, but if it is a United Newcastle final, can you lovely match to be at, Kyle, with the crowd? There will be a special atmosphere now with United trying to win a first trophy under a new manager, and the Geordies haven't won anything since the first division they won in the middle '50s. If I recall, I think they won in Europe in the '70s, but that's a long, long time for the Geordie fans to wait for a trophy. So it'll be a hell of a match.
Yeah, I think what I heard was Newcastle's first League Cup semi-final in 47 years or something. So
Really?
that's been an absolute famine for them. I know they lost two FA Cup finals in a row in the late 90s to United and Arsenal. I remember Alan Shearer crying after those results. But
Yeah.
it's been a barren spell for that club. So it'd be a massive final for both teams if they both qualified for the final. So I think that's the final that probably most neutrals will want to see, given that both teams are in the top four. Yeah, I'm sure the global broadcasters want to see the
Yep.
top four teams in the final. But we'll wait and see what happens. So what changes would you make to the lineup against Crystal Palace? I know we touched on that earlier. That potentially, I think both of us would maybe take the risk of letting Rashford sit this one out, given his injury during the game. We don't want him to worsen that injury. Or we just want to see him, that heal and make sure that he's fresh and available for Arsenal because that's when we probably need him most. So I'm not sure Ten Hag will do this, but I would start Garnacho and Weghorst on Wednesday night. What do you think?
Yeah, well, that would be my personal choice. I would agree with you, but I've got to know this manager at this stage, and it all comes down to how they train before he'll put them in the team. I would like to give Ericsson a rest. I really would, if we could get somebody else in there and get that game won, and then get him fresh for Arsenal on Sunday. I mean, he is getting tired. Nobody expect him to play so much football. Nobody expect him to integrate with all the teams quickly as he has done. He's a credit to his professional career, but I would like to see him get a break of one match at least. Would you not?
Yeah, absolutely. He did get a 16-minute rest against Charlton, but not the full game. Garnacho come on from yesterday in the 72nd minute, and he looked punctured, didn't he, at that
He
stage?
did.
Um, but it's who will replace him if he does Fred then start another game? Fernandez come into midfield, and then Anthony start the game on the right. Maybe.
Yeah, that's possible. That's possible. We want to see Garnacho start games, but he's really playing it very easily with the young lad. I think he doesn't want him to get too big for his boots too quickly. You know, I mean, people always talked about how Ferguson handled people like Lee Sharp and Giggsy early on, and one thing or another. So, although fans like you and me absolutely love his wing play and want to see him every week if we could, it's up to the manager to see how they're training on and but certainly 18 minutes yesterday plus the 5 extra time. He's fit as a fiddle. He could play 90 minutes against Crystal Palace and then go back to the bench for an impact on the Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, it has been talked about that Garnacho certainly doesn't lack self belief. That he's quite a cocky individual. So the manager's handling him very carefully. Now, if you start him in every game, he might get a bit above his station. So
Yeah,
I think from a psychological point of view, he's handling the situation really well. But us as fans, would love to see him get more starts, and maybe midweek he will start. Well, but my feeling, despite me wanting Rashford to be rested, even though that's a risk because he's our most important player, um, I still think the manager will play him if he makes himself available. That's the way I see it.
yeah,
Um, the good thing is that Crystal Palace have 24 hours less rest than us. And we've got 4 days rest between City and Palace, and between Palace and Arsenal.
yeah.
So even though our free midweek was taken away from us with 10 days notice, we've still got 4 day breaks between these games. So there can be no excuses about being tired and all that
No,
sort of
no.
thing.
Well, your reference to Crystal Palace losing again earlier to Chelsea, one thing I took from that game today was that they're in a bad spell, and for the first time, Vieira he looked under pressure today, and he was getting involved with the linesman and the referee, and I think he was close to getting a card. But he's usually cool. He's certainly beginning to get a bit of pressure from the fans now at Crystal Palace. And that'll help us if we get an early goal and then try to capitalise on getting some of our players off early. If we could get 2-0, 3-0 up, say, and get the key players like Rashford if he starts and Varane off early and prepared for Sunday for that 6 pointer at Arsenal.
Yeah, they're certainly not in good form, Palace, but it can be a tricky place to go. And yeah, I wouldn't think that it's likely that we'll be 3-0 up at half time and able to make substitutions. I don't think it'll be that easy.
Mm.
But hopefully, as long as we get the job done, that's the most important thing. Is there maybe a chance that Martinez will get another game in this match? And maybe Shaw will go to left back?
Yeah, that's a possibility. I'm sure Martinez will be making himself clear when he's training because I understand he's as committed in training as he is when he puts the jersey on a Saturday or a Sunday. So yeah, he'll want in there. I personally would play him as well and move Shaw aside to left back.
Yeah, because when Shaw plays left back, like we seen in the Bournemouth game, that lovely crossfield ball he played, which led to Rashford's goal and also the goal he scored with his right foot. He bursted through the middle himself and then let it off to someone, and then they played it back to him, and he rolled it in with his right foot. So
Yeah,
just when Shaw's given a license to get forward like that when he's playing playing left back, he's like a wing back. And as well as he's doing at centre back, we do miss that kind of attacking ability from Shaw. So it'd be nice to see that again in midweek. But I think we're going to see a lot more of him playing centre back. To be honest, I think for some reason Ten Hag really fancies him in that position. It's not a position that he's ever been associated with before Ten Hag came along, but that's what managers do. They change positions. They see something in certain players that we don't, and then they convert them into a different player. You can play a different role. Um, yeah, we weren't really fans of it at the time, but Valencia and Young were converted from wingers into fullbacks. Actually, Young is still playing fullback for Aston Villa.
Yeah.
We've seen Wenger converted Thierry Henry from a winger into a centre forward. So managers see certain things and that we don't, and they convert players into completely different, give them different roles.
Yeah, but the biggest impact is on the two established Solskjaer centre backs who now know the game is up. This manager has tried things with various people because he isn't happy with what they're doing, whether they're the club captain or not the club captain. We know, and I think Ten Hag is quietly coming to that he'll be moving on and releasing those guys. I don't expect either of those two to get a new contract from Ten Hag.
No, I don't. And I think Maguire will go in the summer because I know Southgate has been loyal to him despite his lack of games for United, but I do think at some point that'll become an issue. Southgate would probably say to him, "Listen, if you're not playing for your club, I can't select you in the England squad." So once that happens, I think Maguire will demand a move, and I think he'll go this summer.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I hope you're right.
Um, just one piece of news, which is not great news, is that Arsenal have taken the lead against Tottenham, and it's a
Oh,
Hugo Lloris own goal.
oh,
Uh,
dear, 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 dear. That guy has a weakness and has been, and I can't understand that why he continues to be picked by various Spurs manager. He's always now he's a good shop stopper in various games, but there's an own goal in him, no doubt about it. Kyle, he's a weak link.
Yeah, I haven't been impressed with him lately. And I think his best days are behind him. I think he must be in his mid 30s now, and Tottenham might need to look at replacing him at some point in the near future. So that's not the result we want, but hopefully Harry Kane or Son can get them back into the match. Um, Opta Joe says Hugo Lloris has scored an own goal for the first time in his 354 game Premier League career. Typical.
Right.
um, yeah, that's not the result we want. We want the Arsenal to get closer to us. We want to rein them in
Mhm.
and dream big this season. But if we make the top three, which looks highly probable now, and we pick up some silverware, I'd be absolutely delighted. I'd be elated with that. We
Fantastic.
cannot.
Yeah, and the gap. If we establish a gap, I mean, with you referred to it, Liverpool lost, and all right, Chelsea won today against the Paris Palestine. Spurs lose at home to Arsenal. There is going to be a gap between the top four and the rest trying to make the top four, and that all helps us psychologically. If we can get ourselves winning our home games and the odd game away, we can get that. There won't be any worry about. Remember how it went to the last few games of last season for the Spurs Arsenal thing. We don't want any of that. We want by the start of April to be established as one of the four qualifiers and perhaps look forward to an FA Cup final in May or a Europa League final. That's what we want to aim big now. We're getting better, and let's see that reflected with the silverware.
Yeah, if Spurs don't win this game, there'll be a 5 point gap between them and ourselves. So yeah, the top four will start to pull away. But my preference would be to Spurs to get something from this game, because I don't want Arsenal, opening up a gap between ourselves and them.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, huge couple of games coming up. So it's a massive week for the club. These three games. So the first one we've won. We got 3 points on the board. Let's make it 6 on Wednesday night, and then we can go into the game at the Emirates full of confidence. So if everyone could please subscribe to the channel, comment your thoughts down below, and drop us a wee like on the video. And I will see you again then, Nigel.
Yep. Next exciting installment, hopefully an away win.
Definitely.